Hello guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Prince. This is Understanding the Process. We are here with a pre-Manchester United Arteta breakdown for you guys. About half an hour to 45 minutes ago, he did a press conference before the Man United game, and some very interesting points to talk about, guys. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So the first thing that caught my eye with this press conference was when asked and probed about his experimental system. Arteta gave a very interesting answer. In his managerial way, sometimes he says a lot without saying a lot, and in this situation he actually, I think, opened up a lot more and let us in a lot more than he might have done usually. I think it's obvious that the idea of systems and him playing a different system is something that he's thought about, something that kind of irks him a bit when he's asked about, you play the system, why did you play this system, this formation? He actually said something that's very interesting. So let's jump into what he said, and I'll play the clip for you and then we'll talk about it a little bit afterwards.
What is it that this formation that you played last week and this defence that you like so much that makes you play 10 times better?
What formation is it?
Well, you're the four at the back, Partey at right back, and then you've got Benwa, Gabriel, and then Nketiah at left back. What did you like so much about that?
I think we discussed formations in a different way. In the other day, there were 36 different formations in the match. Against Manchester City, 43. So I don't know what formation we talk about. For me, it's something very different. Maybe for the wise that you look.
No, but I think a lot of people look at the teams you picked and would say that the back four you picked last season was so successful.
The personnel is different, yeah.
Yeah. So is there a chance that you could revert back to that for the Man United game on Sunday?
Well, I played different against Manchester City, and there were 43 different structures in different phases. Every morning I come from my house to Colney. Sometimes I leave at 6. I need to go in the windscreen because it's icy, and at 6 o'clock normally I go Finchley Road and then A41 because it's faster. Now Finchley Road is 20 miles an hour, so sometimes I take a back door. But then I go on the M25. But depending if it's a school ride, and that time I take one exit. If it's after 7 o'clock, I take a different exit. And then I go. And one day I have a flat tire. What do? I have to replace it. Maybe I take a different road because the garage is there. So every game is a different story, guys.
Right. So, I mean, a bit weird, but a bit fascinating, the fact that he used, his route to Colney every morning to kind of describe what he was trying to get across, which is that there's different systems for different days, for different opponents, for different situations. And I guess that's the main point he's trying to put across here. When asked about why did he play the system that he played in the first 3 games, his response is, on my route to work every day, there's different routes depending on the different situations. So the different environmental factors in matches are what he's trying to allude to here as to why the different systems have been played. Now, come on, guys. I mean, I understand the point he's trying to make, but it's very clear that things have changed since last season. And his argument to that is that it's changed because the personnel has changed and because the opponent has changed. However, against the same opponents, we played a different system, and we have most of the same personnel that we did last year, right? So the question again is, why has the new system changed? Now, when we talk about this experimental system with Partey inverting, this is something that I think we will see again at some point this season. And I've said it before in a previous video. I think the system can work, but it depends on the different the different relationships around, that Partey inverting role. But anyways, coming back to the press conference, it's interesting that his answer to a question about why you use that system is to say, in every system, in every game state, there's different systems. He said there's 43 structures, 42 or 43 structures in a game against Man City last season, and we understand during games players move around based on their opponent. Sometimes when a player moves here, you're dragged in, and if Man City striker drops in and Haaland, maybe a defender drops in or a midfielder moves across, we get that, but why? But we know, and he knows what ideally he would want that structure to be. We know what it is. He knows what it is, and I'm sure there is an idea when they go into a game state, knowing how they want to attack and what set formation they want to be when they're attacking, and that's the question we're asking. So it's an interesting distraction from answering the question and what I believe in. He believes, like, come on, Arteta is not an idiot. He knows what we're trying to ask here and what the interviewer or the journalist is trying to ask here, but he kind of parries off the question and doesn't really answer it by giving this analogy of the M25 and using different routes. Putting that to one side, it's clear that things will change and things are going to change. The personnel is different, 100%. Xhaka is not in the team anymore, and because of that, the roles of the different players will have to change, especially with the players that come into that position. But some things will stay the same, and although there are going to be 50, 100 structures in a game, some things that we saw last year will stay the same. So interesting point there that Arteta made when questioned about the experimental system. Let's move on to the next talking point, which is around when questioned around transfers, right? We'll play the clip and then we'll go into it.
Expectation from the outside, rightly or wrongly, that you would go into the market and maybe sign another defender. From now, you're saying you're not expecting anyone else to come in. What happened? Did you not find the right player? Did you decide you've got the options internally?
Well, we've done quite a lot, and obviously we have a lot of uncertainty with a lot of players as well, so we have to be very cautious and find alternatives and ways. Not sometimes that you want to do everything that is needed. Sometimes it's not possible, and we have to adapt.
So is it a case then that had you been able to get players out?
Yeah, we cannot go and buy another 3 players, and if somebody gets injured, long term do something else. It was just not possible.
And United signed Rasmus Højlund for a lot of money.
Right. So the first thing you mentioned is that there's uncertainty with certain players, and that may be a reason why maybe extra moves or extra incomings aren't done. Is he talking about Hughie and Timber here, guys? Is there uncertainty with how long his injury is going to be? We understand he's out for a long time, but are they, as the club, waiting? Is the club unsure about exactly the length of time it will take for him to come back? It's possible. Is he talking about a player like Rob Holding, who is still at the club and is unsure whether he's going to leave? Now, I talk about Rob Holding in the previous video. Go check it out in Do Arsenal Need More Transfers? But the question with Rob Holding is, yes, he's an option, but when we're talking about the cities, when we're talking about, the Madrids, the top teams, when they have alternative options, do those options come in and lower the standard, or do they keep the standard the same? And that is the question mark surrounding Rob Holding. Can he come in and maintain the standard that Arsenal need, especially now that we're in bigger, more, more difficult competitions? And then the last point here is he said something about having to find alternatives, and I believe this party inversion is one solution. One solution, I'm sure of many, but one solution that we could see Arteta implement and bring back to help to cover for when the Zinchenko's get injured, and when because Timber's injured and you don't have that inverting profile in the squad, you repurpose a midfielder, put him in the defensive line, but then give him that, stepping into midfield responsibilities. Are those the alternatives he's talking about? And I believe that is the case. There's a third alternative about promoting the youth players, and again, check out my video on if Arsenal are going to do any more transfers, or if they need any more transfers. In there we talk a little bit about the youth promotion, so very interesting there. It's likely there's no one coming in, no more transfers coming in, and that could always change. But again, it seems like that is what is going to happen. Move on to the third talking point from the pre-match press conference, and this talking point is around the reactions after the Fulham game. Very interesting, Arteta's response here, and let's dive into it, and then I'll give you my thoughts, and we can have a little bit of a dissection of what he says.
You spoke though of your frustration at points lost in Saturday's draw against Fulham. How much do you feel that last season's title challenge has raised expectation around the club's ambitions this season for yourself personally and also for your fans?
We raise the level in everything that we do every single year, and we have to demand each other more and better, and this is what we do. And when you see the reaction when you draw a match, I think it's a great indicator of where you want to be and the demands that you put to yourself.
So he was asked about the reaction to the game, to dropping the points, and he said, you know, the level has raised from last year, and you raise the level year on year on year, and that is in line with how Arsenal fans feel about those 2 points dropped at home against Fulham. The level is different this year. It's different. He's aware of that through his responses. He then goes on to talk about how, you know, the reactions from that draw just shows how high the levels are now and the demands that they put on themselves. So the key thing from this, for me anyways, is that there was a lot of uproar after the game, after the draw against Fulham. But he's aware that that uproar is because of the expectations that they put on themselves. He's aware that that uproar is justified. To an extent, that uproar is a proxy and a sign to the level that Arsenal want to be at, the level that he wants to be at. And is he almost saying that that reaction is a good thing? You know, the fans were frustrated, deeply frustrated after the game against Fulham. And this response from Arteta makes me feel like he understands the reaction. And in a sense, he wants that reaction because it's a sign of the expectation and the level that Arsenal demand from themselves week in and week out. This press conference was interesting. A lot of funny bits, a lot of, interesting analogies from Arteta using the M25, a lot of deflection as well, as we know Arteta to do, and to give information without giving a lot away. But there were some bits that came through in this. There's also a bit he talked about Emile Smith Rowe. Now, I haven't included that in this, but that's an interesting video that we could do on its own. So if you want to see that, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and we'll be back with more. But a very interesting pre-match Man United press conference from Arteta here. Thank you for watching. Leave your comments down below of what you think about his responses to some of those questions, what you think about the different systems and the response that he gave to that question, and what you think about the transfer window we've had so far. Got an interesting video coming out on on how we have done this transfer window, and a summary and